This is the Initiates Podcast. Here, we create space to explore the path of initiation as we reawaken the forgotten wisdom that resides within us all. I am your host and guide, Natalie Grace. Join me every week for an enlightening exploration of spirituality, mysticism, and awakening. It's my honour to journey with you. Thank you for joining me today. I am so grateful for your presence. Before I get into today's episode, I want to check in with you. How are you going? How are you feeling? How are you doing at the moment? I've talked about this March energy being a little bit challenging, a little bit confronting perhaps. I found it to be quite bewildering. We're now in the middle of March and I'm bewildered by the fact that time just seems to be escaping. But I wonder if you're feeling that way too, that it's kind of hard to focus and get stuff done. It's been a very creative time, a very inspiring time. Also a time of big breakthroughs, I think, as well. So that's been a positive, but I am being challenged at the moment with my focus, especially when it comes to my service or career, as some might say. I'm not sure if I really like the term career to describe what I do these days, but it serves a purpose for you to understand what I'm talking about here. My profession, my vocation. Yeah, it's been hard to focus. And so I've been sitting with this and wondering, with the lessons that I've shared over the past couple of episodes about the potential for neutralizing one emotion with its polarized other. So the initial wisdom teaching I received, which I discussed in depth in episode 21, the love and fear axis. In that episode, I talked about a lesson I received through an experience with my cat, which taught me that holding a sincere and genuine frequency of love allows one to neutralize the overwhelming power of fear. And that was a pretty profound lesson, a very symbolic lesson. If you aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, I encourage you to go back and listen to that episode because it's quite a simple yet profound teaching. And since receiving that lesson, I have been really thinking about the ways that I can apply that polarity axis and that neutral point between the two poles, where I can apply that theory in other aspects of my life. And it's actually been really helpful of late when it comes to focusing on my productivity and my vocation, my career, because I was feeling really lost. I think I mentioned that a little when I returned from my sabbatical, that I went through a period of feeling really lost. And I kind of feel like I'm still a little bit lost. I want to say bewildered is a really good word to describe how I'm feeling. Bewildered by all of the potential for what could be, for what's possible, all of the ideas that I have. It's such a creative time right now. There's so much flow of inspiration happening. I'm seeing it around me. I'm seeing it within my world. It's a very activating time, a very motivating time. But so often when we work for ourselves, working with our dharma, with our sacred mission, there's no rule book, there's no framework, there's no boss, and we have to set our own course. And you can get lost when you're on your own, navigating alone. You have to chart your own course, and getting lost is probably part of the process. There's lots of really amazing lessons to be learned when we're lost and we find ourselves, we find our way through. And perhaps this is one of them, but I've been able to find a new pathway through leaning into polarized other of what I'm feeling right now. But yeah, seeing as I think a lot of you are in the same boat as me with having quit a long-standing career to explore your own authenticity, to develop yourself outside of other people's frameworks, to set your own definitions for success and achievement and value. I'm sure you can relate to what I'm saying here, that it's really easy to feel confused and bewildered and a bit lost about what you should be focusing on. And applying this lesson of this axis has actually really helped me refocus. And I'll get into, and so that's what I'm going to be talking about on today's episode. I'm going to be talking about my own journey with a recalibration of what I'm most inspired to work on right now, and talk about my journey with those aspects of what I offer, and in doing so, give you a bit of an update about what I'm going to be bringing forth into the world very soon that I'm so excited to share with you. But mostly I just want to share the lesson, even more than promote what I'm doing. That is one of the most important parts of my mission, to share what I learn with whoever feels called to hear it. So let's share, let's journey. So the love, fear, polarity axis. This was such a cool lesson because it taught me something I already knew, I was already aware of, but I didn't understand the power it held and the spirit it held too. Sometimes these lessons can be really theoretical, but this living polarity that exists between emotions. If you have an emotional scale, you can kind of plot opposite emotions with one another, like I did with love and fear. And yes, you can theorize about it and all make sense, you know, working with the universal law of polarity, but living it, I became acquainted with the real presence of this lesson, of this law, that these two polar opposites hold a spirit themselves, hold life within them. They are incredibly interactive if you choose to work with them. And the power of that lesson I've been able to apply in my life. You know, overcoming a fear not only makes it easier to do the thing you were once scared of, like me moving around my farm in the dark with much more ease and confidence, as I discussed in episode 21. But it also means that after you overcome one fear, you're empowered to work with other fears you have. And that's how I felt. I felt like, whoa, that's a pretty big thing I've been able to transform in my life that's going to help me a lot. What else can I apply this lesson to? What else can I transform? And it all started with leaning into love. So in my personal life, which I'm going to be honest, I like keeping private, but I do want to share lessons of what's going on with me from a personal perspective as well. And, you know, with any relationship, it's always a goal to act in love and out of love rather than fear or anger or hurt. And so this has been a fairly easy lesson to apply in my personal life because it was something I was already aware of. It doesn't make it easy, but it's something that I was already aware of that I should be doing. I should be, instead of reacting out of fear, acting intentionally out of love. But when I started to think of other areas of my life that weren't about my, personal shadow work to do with my relationships and that kind of thing, I was led to look at my more professional life, my professional persona. And I've been feeling all kinds of emotions about that. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm challenged at the moment by feeling rudderless, feeling lost just by the full expanse of potential. I'm someone who loves dipping my toes in many different pools to test the temperature, to see what's there. I love having different things I'm doing, different projects I'm working on. I have multiple little businesses I run. And I say little on purpose because I'm not that inspired by the entrepreneurial mindset, which is so largely driven by money and power and success. I'm much more aligned with the concept of small business. I'm really motivated to be a very active, proud, inspired small business owner, achieving big things that make a difference to my community that I'm fostering and also the broader collective. So I just wanted to say that I'm not ashamed to call my business small. I'm just being honest. So I run a couple of little businesses and it keeps me inspired. It keeps me evolving my interests, but it can also get overwhelming with what I should be focusing on. And that's where I've been really challenged this year, is really honing my focus to achieve, to build my business, to expand my offerings, to expand my audience, my community. And after receiving this lesson about this polarity axis of emotion, I started to apply it to the way I thought about my acts of service, my offerings, my business, my professional persona. And yeah, it's been much more difficult than applying it to my personal life. I've had to think much more creatively because obviously there's a lot to do with fear here. I have mentioned that I'm holding some blocks and some challenges for myself around fear of being seen in my authenticity, fear of achievement, of success. I'm not sure why that is or where that stems from. It's definitely something I'm working on, but my awareness had led me to understand that I know that's a fear that exists within me. So I know there's some fears that I hold that are causing blockages or limiting programs, let's say. Applying this lesson more broadly, I was thinking, well, if it applies to love and fear, why can't it apply to other emotions? So I started thinking about how else I'm feeling in my business. And this was literally me just sitting in quiet reflection, in self-awareness, asking myself the questions, how is it I am feeling about my business? What emotions do I have right now? Do I hold when it's time to sit down and work? What is inspiring me and what's not inspiring me? I went through the process of asking myself those questions. And I received some answers really quickly. And a really big one was apathy. And this was quite shocking for me, actually, because because I'm not a naturally apathetic person. If you're apathetic, you don't create little projects you work on and turn them into businesses. So when I sat and thought, why am I so uninspired? I have these passions that I really love. I have goals and ambitions around teaching tarot, around sharing the incredible, beautiful, subtle energy medicine of flower remedies, of establishing community around this podcast. These are all incredible goals and real passions of mine. Yet I'm feeling apathetic towards doing the work to make this happen, to make this real. What is that about? And when I really felt into that emotion, it was all about the expectations or pressure to do it a certain way. And I had to think about where this stems from. why is this so? Where does this come from? Why am I, a normally not apathetic person, experiencing this apathy when it comes to doing the work that's required to achieve my goals? And there's a few reasons that I've been able to identify. I wonder if they resonate with you. One is not being inspired by normal career drivers. That's probably something you guys can relate to somewhat, to some extent. If you have quit your day job and you have decided to follow your passions, lean into your authenticity, create a lifestyle where you work for yourself and you create your own vision, you build your own dream. You know, you're not inspired by the usual climbing a corporate ladder, for instance, if you've made that decision for yourself. When this is, say, a spiritual business, if there's such a thing, a soul-led career, the ambition is different. The ambition is much more around service than it is around success. The success is an amazing byproduct of doing your sacred service. But for many of us, we're not seeking the usual definition of success when it comes to career. It's something a bit different. And then I think about my day-to-day work and what's involved in doing readings for people, teaching tarot, putting out a podcast, which I plan to grow and expand, all of these things. So much of it, especially because all my work is in the digital sphere, so much of it takes place on social media. The source of the apathy is really interesting, and it all comes from the way we do marketing these days, the way we promote our businesses. It's about working for the algorithm or the machine. Having worked in tech for so long, I have a really good understanding of how tech works. And I'm so uninspired to work for the algorithm. And this isn't to complain about me not being treated well enough by the algorithm. It's more about the consensus reality we're now in, where so many of us on a personal as well as like a professional or brand level are putting in actual labor, are using our vital life force to target the machine instead of actual human people, to work for the algorithm instead of the users. Not all of us are aware that we're doing this. I'm aware of this. When we're creating videos based on trends that we wouldn't otherwise create, apart from it being useful to help bolster our visibility on a platform. This is working for the algorithm, and I hate it. It's a strong emotion to name, but I feel actually I can say this. I hold some resentment that it's gotten to this, and maybe we could say throughout the whole of history. I got my start working actually in my digital career working Yellow Pages, and that was working for that system as well, the machine of this directory and the sales machine behind it. I got to see that firsthand, and marketing's always existed, so I don't want to be naive about that. But I don't think we've had to work for the machine as much as we do until very recently in human history. And it's just something that doesn't inspire me at all. And lots of people are inspired by it. Lots of people have been able to realize so much of their potential by sharing themselves and working with the algorithm to allow them to be seen. So I'm definitely seeing that I have apathy based on this gatekeeper of the algorithm not being a human. And I think this is the deepest source of this apathy, that I am not inspired one bit. I'm actually probably into the negative. I'm uninspired by the prospect of working for the algorithm, working for the machine. I spent quite a long period after being, I don't want to say addicted to social media, but relying on social media to establish my personality, my outward facing personality. It was such an important part of my identity in my late 20s and early to mid 30s, to the point where it was unclear where the online persona began and ended for me. It led me to need to cut it off completely. I stopped posting. I would go on to look at other people's stuff to keep up to date with what people in my network were doing, and to just consume the usual stuff we consume. But I did take a pretty big break from that part as well. But mostly it was posting. I didn't post for a number of years after being prolific in sharing. And this helped me gain perspective on who I actually am outside of this machine. And perhaps I hold some fear around crossing over that threshold again, allowing myself to be seen. I know in this incarnation of my social media presence that it's much more authentic, I want to say. It's not just about memes and trolling and being a clown, being hilarious. That was so important to me. This is different. And perhaps because it's more authentic now, there is more risk involved. So I identify the fear there. There needs to be some fear that's overcome. I'm going to have to lean into some love in order to overcome that fear. But in regards to the apathy, the algorithm really gets in the way of my motivation and inspiration. And this might be me victimizing myself a little bit because I'm not working the algorithm to my benefit as yet. I have known in the past how to do this, but times changed since I was that prolific poster, prolific sharer. And so what's interesting this time around, coming back onto social media, being present like I have in the past 2 years, I guess, with my account Crystal Aura Tarot, where I share tarot education and collective readings. That was my first foray back into Instagram, for instance. It's been a new exploration with a different purpose and a different meaning. Things have changed a lot since I was a prolific poster and an oversharer, and it's not the way I want to use it going forward. I'm actually really protective of my privacy here. Despite having these public profiles, despite having a podcast where I share some really intimate stuff and I talk about my life, my thoughts, my feelings, I still hold this reluctance to share. And it's because I see what other people share and it's not aligned. I'm just not willing to do what we're told to do in order to please the algorithm. I am not going to do trending content. I'm not doing those lip syncing videos, and for really good reason for me. I'm very happy to elaborate on this in a future episode, but there's so much spell work that goes on in those trending lip syncing videos that I just can't get past. So if you enjoy those, no judgment. I'm really glad you're able to work with the algorithm that way, but it's just not for me. And so feeling limited by what we're producing, the vitality we put into what we produce, and having it sit there and not please this machine and not realize its potential is, I don't know, I guess when I'm thinking about what I just said, it's like it's reinforcing that fear of being seen over and over and over. So it's probably my own trigger. And maybe once I get past this trigger, all of a sudden I will be creating content that the algorithm finds pleasing. But it's just, it's just not inspiring to me. And so I've had to think about all these things to do with apathy. And when I put apathy on that axis, what would neutralize apathy? That was my next question for myself. And it's passion. It has to be passion. When we have passion for something, we have this overflowing well of inspiration, of motivation, of determination. Passion is a force that not only wills us to create, but like pushes us to create. It's a very powerful emotion. And so when I'm thinking about the hold that this apathy has over me, well, first of all, it's not just about social media. If I find that bit unmotivating, what other avenues, what other marketing channels can I be using? What other methods can I use to connect with my potential audience outside of social media? There's some things that I can work with, but working in the digital space, I can't avoid it. And so I've got to get over this apathetic view of social media. And I think the best way to do that for me is to lean into my passions and really, so I've been in the past couple of weeks really focusing on what do I love to overcome that fear in my work? What do I love about my work? What am I passionate about? What are my biggest passions? How can I anchor into those passions so that I am motivated and inspired to create content where I'm sharing my passion with all those who are following me or are coming into contact with my content? How can I utilize this passion to propel myself forward and to get me excited and motivated and productive in achieving the goals I'm setting for myself? How can I use this passion to create new, different drivers to help me achieve success? What does that success look like for me? All of these things have been really powerful. So that first axis has been the passion and apathy axis. And I'm quite confident that when I begin, I've been working on strategies and plans for myself to do this. So they're almost complete. But when I begin creating content around my passions, I have a lot of them, I will be empowered to neutralize the control of apathy, the control of that vibration of apathy, that hold that it has over me at the moment, where I'm focusing on what doesn't inspire me instead of what does. So if you're finding that you're experiencing something similar, you're perhaps burnt out with putting so much effort and time into content for it to not be seen by many people, or feeling pressured to create certain types of content that you really wouldn't create if you didn't have to get views or conform to what others in your scene or industry or sphere are doing. If you're feeling those things, I see you. I'm here with you. I'm in your boat. And I encourage you to sit down and do a similar exercise where you think about where your apathy stems from. What is it that you don't feel passionate about? And then find the things you do feel passionate about and find ways to anchor into the vibration of the passion you feel for those things. Whether the passion relates to the work that you do, aspects of work you do. So for instance, for me, my passions, if I really sat with this, what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about tarot, yes, but truly it's about the symbols in the tarot. This is so big for me. It's what propelled me into working with the tarot in such a deep way. And it applies to so many other aspects of my life, so many other aspects of my creativity. So much of my philosophy and how I see the world is informed by my deep understanding and interest in the symbolic language. So there's that. And tarot is an incredible framework, an incredibly deep and magical and wise framework for holding so many layers of symbolism. And so this is something that have always been so motivated and driven by, and probably that I've forgotten about while I've been trying to promote myself as a reader. What I've actually come to realize when I sat down to think about my passions is that what my passion is about is actually teaching and guiding rather than reading. I love reading as well, but if I'm really to think about what I want to focus on based on my passions, my true passions, it's actually sharing the wisdom of the tarot with others who love tarot as well, or who are new to tarot and want to understand what's so special about it. And it's sharing my understanding of how we can unlock our own existing understanding, knowledge of the language of symbols. So passions, I've named a few there. We've got tarot, we've got symbols, we've got teaching. And teaching is an interesting one for me as well, because I've had a few opportunities recently to sit down and reflect on parts of my previous career that I really loved. I have talked about how I find creation in the digital space really fun and exciting and challenging in all the best ways to me from a mental perspective, an intellectual perspective. But even more than that, I was working in teams, and I loved working in teams where I was either a team lead or a producer or a project manager, where I could bring people with different skill sets and different personalities together, share a vision of what's possible, what is going to be that doesn't exist yet, and working with a team to create something completely new out of nothing. It was always a powerful experience and a fun experience, and the relationships that I was able to build were really amazing, and it was so rewarding for me. And I really do miss that, working in this kind of solitary environment. I miss the opportunity for connection. So I really do feel like the teaching is an amazing way for me to connect with other people in a similar way, where I'm able to share a vision, to share knowledge, to support people when they're challenged, to inspire them, to motivate them to be their biggest supporter and cheerleader and fan. It's something that's really exciting to me, that I'm super passionate about launching into, because I've so far been only focused on reading, and I've definitely held that vibration of support in a reading capacity, motivation, activation, all of those things, empowerment. That's a huge thing for me. I'm really passionate about empowering other people to realize their own potential. But yeah, working through teaching, I think, is a whole other realm of expansion that I'm yet to tap into, that makes me really excited and really motivated. And that is something that I think is an endless pool of inspired content for me to create, that makes me more excited about that part. The fact that I'm able to create stuff that I really am passionate about, and it's intentional, and I've really thought about this, instead of wasting my time creating stuff that I don't care that much about just because that's what you're supposed to do on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whichever platform we're talking about. And so that has led me to the feelings of isolation around being like that lone ranger. I had a chat with someone recently about this, where I think we were being quite hard on ourselves about the level of success we're yet to achieve, and the money we're making, and the fact that we're having to work within these old business models that don't really fit, because what we're working with is something more quantum. And I had to take this advice that I gave my friend, which was we have to be less hard on ourselves because we're out here pioneering a way of working that doesn't really exist, that's not supported by society, that's not valued by society. And the vision that we hold is that we know it's so important for the evolution. It's so important for where we're going. I know it's not so important that everyone needs to read tarot. I don't even think that that's what's going to happen. But I do think that everyone needs to be reminded of the memory they hold of the universal language of symbols, of archetypes, the power that we can awaken within us when we start unraveling these repressed memories from our ancestors, from our lineage, from our past lives, even from our current lives, just absorbing, consuming our culture, our media. It can be such an empowering process. So this is what I envision holding incredible value for where we're headed, that we're going to need to reawaken those repressed memories, whether we're working with it through tarot or some other format, because symbols are everywhere, everywhere. I'm going to dedicate a whole episode to the language, the symbolic language of our universe. But that's enough for now. I hope that my passion about this subject is conveyed and that you're receiving it, because it's something so special that I love to work with in this lifetime, in this incarnation. Others are healers. In my other aspect of what I do, I make vibrational medicines. And this is another passion of mine, is working with the subtle energy fields, working with vibration, exploring vibration, even just working with this polarity axis between emotions is a vibrational scale that we're working with. This interest, this passion for vibration came through my passion for crystals. Crystals were kind of like my gateway into spirituality in one way. I've had a number of different paths that have led me to where I am today, but definitely the opening that I received through becoming enamored with crystals taught me so much in the long term about consciousness, about vibration, about memory and information and data. There's so much to it. Again, a whole other episode will be coming about my relationship with crystals and crystal consciousness. But crystals, it was a natural progression to get to other aspects of Gaia's realm, like flower medicine, plant medicine. And this is something I'm super passionate about. So in my vision for my flower essence business, it's not so much about money. I've done all of the market research and the market is very small now. But I know my claircognizance, my intuition has told me for quite a long time that there's going to be a time in the very near future when we seek other forms of healthcare, wellness management, whatever you want to call it, that at some point the current system won't be able to serve us anymore, that it has an end point and that we are going to evolve beyond it. And the gateway of the evolution for our health and wellness is vibration. So many of you work with other forms of vibration aside from plant medicine, whether there could be herbalism, homeopathy, you could be working with flower essences as I do, crystal elixirs, you could be working with sound, with light, with color, with technology, devices like the Healy or Rife frequencies. I could go on and on. There's so much, everything's vibration. But that is another passion of mine, and the vision I hold is that I am going to be here ready with these formulas when people are ready to receive them. I'm here. I'm ready for you. I'm here to help you heal yourself. And I know so many other healers are in exactly the same position where they are working for now. They're ready to support whoever's ready now, but we can all feel that there's going to be a time that comes. It's sooner and sooner and sooner with every day that passes, where these alternative therapies become normalized, become trusted, become validated, and that they are going to be there to help so many more people than are aware of them right now. And that's what I'm here for. That's the frequency, the vibration that I hold. That's the space that I hold now, because I also hold the vision of the future that is yet to be. But I am working in that future. Some people call that manifestation. That's just my reality. I've always worked this way. I've worked with the vision of what hasn't been, of what is yet to be, and I work to create that new future. Wow, it feels really powerful to reflect on what I've done in that way rather than just a job title. But that's really cool. So the passion for vibration, the passion for symbols, the passion for teaching, the passion for energetic medicine, it's all there. And this is what I'm leaning into going forward, to neutralize my apathy, to overcome the resentment I hold towards the machine and its influence on connection, on receival of really important messages, on sharing. At the very base level, on sharing. The other thing I've been overlooking is the power of these platforms and their silly algorithms. They're all controlling algorithms to create the environment of connection and community. I have benefited myself from this so much, and I also need to lean into that to neutralize the feeling of isolation that I feel working for myself. It's already been really powerful, but I need to be much more consciously aware of this and the importance of this as to why I need to create, need to work more, need to produce more content so that I can create more connection, build broader community, connect with more people. And this is communication that goes two ways. I have no yearning to just speak at people. Despite me having this podcast, you will hear me every episode now inviting you to come and communicate, to come and share, to come and experience together in our Telegram group, the Initiates on Telegram, because it's more than just me speaking at people. And I really don't like this about social media as well. I used to love that part of social media, having this platform where I could be right all the time about everything. But I'm so not about that anymore. I want to explore. I want to explore with others. I want to explore ideas and challenge my own beliefs with other people. I want to grow with other people. I want to connect. So if I hold a feeling, an emotion, a vibration of isolation, feeling alone, I can neutralize that by anchoring into the feeling of connection that does exist on these platforms. And it's real. Even though the algorithm is the machine, the connection that takes place is not contrived. It is not artificial. It is so real. It's between real people. Real communities are formed. I am part of that. I've witnessed it and I'm working with it to create the same. So this is something that I'm going to allow myself to enjoy and to motivate me when I feel resentment about having to give too much of myself to the machine, yet still feel isolated. I can lean into the feeling of trust that this platform holds people that are here to connect with me, that are here to receive what I have to share and share their own wisdom with me, to connect with me in that way. And to have belief, hold the energy of belief, the vibration of belief in the spirit of connection being what ultimately enlivens these platforms, The spirit of connection is more powerful than the machine, more powerful than the algorithm. Without the people there with the will to connect with others, these platforms will be useless. So the actual soul of the platform is the connection, the opportunity for connection. And that this, not only is that so valuable on its own, but to have this platform where we can be creative and connect through our own creativity is, I need to see this more of a gift and a blessing than a hindrance and a burden. And that's what I'm going to anchor into. And look, it's easier said than done. There's so much work that goes into creating content, good content, not lazy content. I'm talking about good, meaningful content. It takes a lot of thought. It takes planning. It takes time. It takes your creative vitality. It even takes money. And I'm willing to invest all those things in order to get out of it what I now see, the creativity, the passions, the connection, the community. All of those things are possible to feel. If I anchor into those feelings, there is no doubt in my mind that I'll be able to neutralize the apathy, to neutralize the feelings of isolation, to neutralize the resentment towards the algorithm. It's something that I'm going to be working on. Perhaps I'm publishing this episode to hold myself to account a little bit. But it's more, as I said at the very beginning, most importantly, I'm here to share the lessons that I learn, and this is one of them. Thinking about our challenges, one way to do it that is quite productive that I've now discovered is to place them on this emotional axis and to identify what it is I'm feeling that's negative, and then lean into, anchor into its positive opposite. And by doing this, it is my belief, it is my hope, it is my goal that I am able to start kicking some goals that I've been setting for myself, like pivoting into tarot education and launching my symbols course, launching one-on-one tarot training, personalized training containers, publishing my daily tarot journal, which has been in the plans for a while, and even publishing a tarot deck. So I have lots of goals for myself, and I feel like even though it's been hard to find focus, I really am ready to start achieving these goals and realizing my vision, my potential, activating myself, pushing myself, propelling myself forward into my future self vision, my future self reality. Thank you for being here with me as I've shared this lesson. I hope it's inspired you in some way to sit with your own feelings around your work, your sacred work, and get to the bottom of some of your blocks. If you have found this episode useful, then I encourage you to rate or review on your podcast player or share this episode with your friends on social media. And if you'd like to stay in contact between episodes, do come join us on the Telegram chat. The link is in the show notes. We'll be very excited to welcome you into our little community. Lastly, if you were interested or excited at all when I was talking about tarot or symbols or vibrational medicine, check the show notes and follow the links to my tarot school, Crystal Aura Tarot, where you can register your interest for my upcoming 6-week symbols course. I'm hoping to launch that April to May. We'll see how we go with that, but that's my goal. You can also there sign up for one-on-one personalized training with me. You can either get 1 session or a 4-session program, and it will be completely tailored to your own experience level, your own goals, your own interests with tarot. You can also shop my amazing range of flower remedies. They are a beautiful form of subtle energy medicine. Go to flowerguide.com.au to learn more. And if you'd like to sign up for the Initiates email list, check out theinitiates.com and you can subscribe there as well, so you can stay tuned to any new stuff happening in the community. Thank you so much for staying with me. I hope you have a beautiful week, and we will talk soon. Peace and love.